It is 9/11/2023, and today we are remembering and honoring those that have fallen on 9/11 of 2001. And our prayers are with the families and friends and those who are afflicted by it. And we are so grateful for the people that have fought for us and for the first responders and the law enforcement that helped on that day. And we mourn one of the deadliest attacks on American soil since Pearl Harbor. And so we are going to discuss a little bit about that, as well as the unfortunate response of Joe Biden and the media outlets that should be covering it on their headlines on page one, but unfortunately doesn't seem to be the case. So we are going to be covering 9/11 a little bit. We're going to be honoring and remembering them, and then after that, we're also going to go ahead and jump into the latest development out of New Mexico, where the governor, Michelle Grisham, I believe her name is, Michelle Grisham, has suspended your right to open and conceal carry a gun in New Mexico, completely violating the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, not just the New Mexico Constitution, but the federal United States Constitution. But luckily, we have some brave men and women in the law enforcement who have said they refuse to enforce her unconstitutional decision. So that is something that we can be grateful for and look forward to hopefully being a pathway and a cause for it to be rectified. But Democrats, they're losing grip, they're losing power, so they keep trying to tighten, and it is not working out for them. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and end it on a little bit of a better note with the week 2 of the college football season, and then week 1 of the
it's a little recap
NFL
and our thoughts.
season. So we're going to give you a little bit of a recap of what happened and some of our personal America's Dummies opinions. Expert opinions on the matter. So
Who are the experts?
We look forward to that. So thanks again for tuning in. I'm Kyle McClure. This is Lone Wolf, and we are America's Dummies. Let's dive in. And welcome back to another episode. Thank you for tuning in and joining us today on, well, I guess when we're recording it is September 11th. I'm hoping we can get it dropped and uploaded for you guys to see this within the next day or two, so that way we're not too far off on honoring the fallen of 9/11 and honoring those who have lost their lives in the war on terror overseas, and including those that still suffer today through illnesses because of the toxicity in that day, and then, of course, those who have lost family members, friends and family members on that horrific day. Which, by the way, we'll get into this as we may have alluded to in the intro. We'll get into why, again, Joe Biden is not the commander-in-chief, because he is failed as a leader of this country, because he just doesn't seem to care about anything. And, of course, we're talking about the fact that he was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, he officially broke the tradition of our leader, our nation's leader, to be there on 9/11.
Yeah, and it's like, I understand he's doing some, good things, and, well, why it's important he's in Vietnam, but at the same time, bro, you should have been here. You should have been at the White House. You should have been at the site of the attacks.
You should have been at Ground Zero.
Yeah, should have been at Ground Zero instead of sending cackling hyena laugh Kamala Harris there next to, Mayor Eric Adams of New York. Is it Mayor or Governor? Governor Eric Adams?
Governor.
Mayor Eric Adams, Mayor. Governor Kathy Hochul.
Yeah.
So, either way. Oh, no. I forgot to take this off the thingamabob.
Well, I have C4, so it doesn't matter. I'm sure
just in case.
Ozarka wouldn't mind us having their water on screen.
It's a great water.
It's free advertising.
You know that reminds me, people, and we're going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here. Just stick with us. But what pisses me off is that, especially growing up, people were like, just drink tap water. It's like, no, I don't like the taste of tap water. I prefer to have good filtered water, like water bottle. And everybody's like, it's water. Water's water. It tastes the same. I was like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't.
Coming from a guy that, when we got home from school, we were outside. Came home when Dad whistled, the street lights came on. Oh. And we had water from the hose or whatever we could find. It doesn't taste the same.
No, it doesn't taste the same. Although I will say sometimes on a very hot day and you get some water from the hose.
And it's kind of coldish.
It's cold. Ooh, refreshing. I got to say.
That hits the spot.
I got to say. But yeah, I prefer very good filtered water. I have a filtration system on my tap water on my sink here.
Yeah.
And while I do need to go to the store in the next couple of days and buy a new one, even when it's fresh, brand new filter, it still does not taste good in comparison to like water bottles. I have to, and even then, I have to have it freezing cold, like pretty close to freezing, for me to be able to drink it, and it tastes somewhat good. I can't just fill it up and then drink it. And I don't have ice here. I keep my ice maker off because again, the filtration system for that isn't that good. So I just I don't like it.
Tap water hasn't been the greatest in the last 5 years to a decade.
I'm just glad we're not in Flint, Michigan.
Yeah, you can actually drink it if you had to.
Well, yeah, but it ain't ideal.
Well, yeah.
Anyways, so, all right, so as we're going to discuss, and you can switch over to whichever topic you feel like jumping into today, but again, we're going to be talking about the 9/11 Remembrance, honoring the 2,977 people who have lost their lives on that horrific day by just 19 hijackers, 19 terrorists, and a little bit about the response from Joe Biden and also the media and their coverage of it recently. And then we're also going to discuss...
What coverage?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we'll also discuss a little bit about New Mexico's governor trying to essentially do away with the Second Amendment of the federal Constitution. Not to mention, I mean, she's just on the state level, but not to mention the fact that she's trying to do away with the Second Amendment on a federal constitutional level. And she is trying to attack your Second Amendment rights and basically suspend the Second Amendment of your civil rights to carry concealed or open. Because the New Mexico is Constitution carry state, just like Texas is.
Yeah. So open and concealed.
Yeah, and she's getting a bunch of flack from both the left and the right, and we have seen some reports and videos of sheriffs in New Mexico saying that they swore an oath to the Constitution
and they will not enforce it.
Exactly, to protect their communities, and they will not enforce an unconstitutional ruling and decision by the I don't know what to call her, but we'll just stick with the governor because we're trying to... Well, there we go. The tyrant in charge of New Mexico right now. There we go. Just like the tyrant in charge of America is Joe Biden.
It's like she was called by one of the people we follow, Michelle Tyrant Gisham. Is that her last name?
Grisham. Michelle Grisham. Yeah, Grisham. Michelle Lujan Grisham. But yeah, Michelle the tyrant Grisham.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, we'll do that. And then, of course, we'll end off today with a recap of week 2 of college football, including some of the bigger highlights like Miami and Texas A&M, Texas and Alabama. Texas beating Alabama, which is crazy. And then we'll probably discuss a little bit about Colorado maintaining people's eyes. And
they're staying in the spotlight.
Yeah, and then of course I'll discuss a little bit about Oklahoma because I'm an Oklahoma fan and how I am content with the win but dissatisfied with how we won it. So we'll get into all of that in further detail here in a little bit. But first, before we do, please go ahead and click that like button, hit that share button, and subscribe to our podcast if you haven't already. And don't forget to turn on that notification bell so that way you do not miss an America's Dummies episode when they drop. We are still in the process of trying to figure everything out. And please comment below what you think of the video and audio quality, what you think we could do better, maybe what you like already. And then, of course, does anybody know how we can live stream or do a recording to where it's easy to bring up videos as we're actually recording so you can see our lifetime reaction? Because I don't know how to do that. And I can't find a straight answer on how to do that. So, if you do, please comment below and let us know, or send us an email at americasdummiespodcast@gmail.com. Now, without further delay, let's get into it. And the first one is Honor the Fallen of September 11, 2001. One of the most horrific days in American history. The most horrific attack on American soil since Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941. And so, man, I obviously, everybody remembers where they're at if they were alive. For me, I was alive, but I was 3, so I do not remember where I was at or what I was doing. It's more likely in daycare. But you, on the other hand, you remember where and what you were doing when it happened. And as someone who is not even born in America, you're born in Puerto Rico, which is an American, essentially subsidiary, if you will, American colony. You were still living here in America at the time.
Yeah.
And you still felt extremely disheartened.
You know, being born in Puerto Rico, obviously our roots are there, and that little island we'll die for it, you know. But we still have strong ties to the U.S., and I've been in the U.S. before and family in the U.S. But in 2001, I was 3 years in. I came in 98.
Yeah. The year I was born.
Yeah. So I was at work receiving a truck, and manager came in and it's like, turn on the TV, and we watched the news. And, at first we were just watching, like, damn, what's going on, asking questions, whatever, trying to find out.
Most people, when they saw the building on fire, they thought, man, what a horrific accident.
Yeah.
As everybody was watching it unfold.
But when that second plane hit live,
903.
It was live TV. That second plane hit, my heart sank. I was like, we're going to war.
Yeah.
Like, we're at war. And we closed the store, sent the customers home, like, y'all need to go get ready.
Dude, I don't remember... Hell, I don't remember the first 6 years of my life that well, right? And obviously, I just turned 3 about a week before that, right? So a week before 9/11, I turned 3. Mm-hmm. And, of course, I don't remember any of that. My mom and my dad have talked about where they were at when they saw it. My dad talked about how he was waiting for a job application to go through the Twin Towers, right? Through the World Trade Center in order for it to be processed. And he remembered watching it on, as... he's waiting for the whole process to go. He was not at work, and he remember watching it on the television while at home. Yeah. And how everybody felt that day, and how everybody thought it was a horrific accident when that first plane hit at 8:46 a.m. in the North Tower, and then at 9:03 a.m. the South Tower got hit. What's crazy too is the South Tower actually came down first. Mm-hmm. And when I see the videos to this day, ever since I saw the first videos. And watching the people jump to their deaths because of it's either jump to your death or you burn alive. And they
didn't have a way out. So
when you watch the videos of people in the streets in the aftermath, you can see it on their faces. Yeah. You can see the hurt, the pain, the disbelief.
Like if you go to just search like remembering 9/11, and there's one website I saw that is remembering 9/11 through pictures, and it's just picture after picture after picture, and it's hard to see because I saw that happening, right? And so
and you know what frustrates me a lot too is how a lot of people will take these videos and they'll try to turn it into conspiracy theorists as this video of a plane going in the second tower that was faked, that wasn't real, it was actually bombs. That shit frustrates me.
That bothers me a little bit. Like, you have your conspiracy theories, whatever. But all those people that were there, thousands of people, saw the planes hit the towers.
What's crazy, too, is I actually saw for the first time...
Debunk that.
Exactly, right? I saw for the first time that video we looked up earlier where the dude was actually pretty close to both towers and he was on the ground floor looking up. So everybody sees the one that's in a building, basically kind of almost eye level, a little bit below where the accidents happened. This one, he was looking up, right, with the video camera the entire time.
The plane flew right above him.
I get chills. I got chills when I saw that, and you can just hear the plane. And, of course, there's the sound, there's the delay in the sound because how quickly it happened, right? And then it hits, and then you hear it, kind of like lightning and thunder, right? You see it, then you hear it, and you just, you see that plane going so close. Look, the reason why we're saying remember the fallen, remember the 2,977 people, both civilians, law enforcement, and military personnel from the Pentagon that lost their lives on that day. The reason why we're doing this because so many people have forgotten or did not grow up during that time frame. They forgot what it felt like. they forgot what it looked like. And they forgot the patriotism that everybody felt in terms of their homeland being attacked. We have a big country, not a whole lot of people in comparison to some other places like Russia. I think may have more people, and places like China for sure.
Oh, China definitely does.
Right, but we have patriotism that's almost unparalleled, or at least we did. And that kind of that kind of connected us. The only people that weren't connected were the politicians, but we were united as an American people.
That day, our patriotic strength was increased exponentially.
Yeah.
But all that's gone away with the years, and like the media not covering it. Like for me, today, that should be your top story on every media channel there is.
The first thing you should see when you go to any media channel is remember even like maybe a lower chyron on the live TV when they're covering different topics, which we know they should still say remember the fallen of 9/11 or honor the fallen.
And people can argue like, well, what about Pearl Harbor? Like, why isn't that on the front page?
Should be every December 7th. Yeah. And it usually is. I mean, a lot of times it is. But like, every very, like July 4th, the history of the United States, forefront of every media outlet. Because we need to get back to a sense of patriotism. Because we're an all low in terms of people who are proud to be Americans, people to call themselves Americans, people who call themselves patriots. We're at an all-time low, and unfortunately, the lowest of them are people who register as Democrats or left-leaning ideology, right? If you're a conservative, if you're a Republican, you're the most patriotic of them all. And it's gotten to the point to where it's no longer about country, it's all about political party. Mm-hmm. And that's what I don't understand. And I don't understand why, what is it, Washington Post, CNN, NBC, even Fox News.
Even Fox News you had to scroll down. Right, the New York Post.
The New York Post.
You had to scroll down.
Bro, New York, it's in the name.
Yeah.
It's in the name, the New York Post. And I'm not just going to denigrate or downgrade or attack or anything, just the left-leaning news outlets. It's the right-leaning, too. Fox News and the New York Post. The New York Post is more independent, right-leaning. The Fox News is obviously conservative-leaning. But Fox News has been screwing up a lot lately and not covering on the front page, having a big picture an article for people to click on to remember the fallen, remember 9/11, and why it was such a big deal and what transpired because of it. Now, don't get me wrong, do I think we should have invaded another country and gone to war for 20 years? I don't know, but I still think it's better than sitting around and letting them do it again.
Yeah, like to me,
I think it's mixed feelings in terms of how we responded.
Yeah, like the patriotic, feeling, the love for our country that we had after that, that's gone away. And, the media should be, like, telling people about it, showing the kids about it, like, what happened, what it means to be an American, right? Yeah. Because let's not wait for another attack, thousands of people dying again for us to be united again. Mm-hmm. It's in the name, the United States of America, and that's what we should be. Let's not wait and just do it.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know what? That actually reminds me of the fact that December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor, we were attacked, and it was during when the rest of the world across the seas was at war, right? Yeah. And then what was it? Like 3 days later, I think on December 10th, Congress declared war against Japan and Germany and the Axis powers.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor took us into World War
II, right? Exactly. And then, of course, what happens with a few days later, I think on...
I don't know if it was a few days later.
It was. So the few days later, I think we declared war on terror, essentially. And I think, what was it? October was when we first went into... So, yeah, the first attacks in the War of Terror was on October 7th in 2001 in Afghanistan. It started with Britain and with the United States doing several airstrikes against the strongholds and training camps of the Al-Qaeda. And so, real quick, let's back up a little bit and go into some details about that day, because if you're a young viewer, if you're 25 or younger, maybe even just a little bit older, but you don't remember much about it from when you're taught in school or you weren't able to experience it firsthand, which I don't wish people
If there's any students listening to us, let us know if school said anything today.
Yeah,
I would like to know.
If there's anybody out there who's in high school, middle school, if you're in middle school, salute to you, because I don't know why you chose us. But if you're in any type of school, let us know if they covered the 9/11 tragedy, what they covered,
if they even said anything.
If they said anything about it, how much time they spent on it, like what was the coverage like for you today or on 9/11 at the time you are watching this video. And if actually, you know what, even if you're older, just comment what your experience was like in school when they covered 9/11 and how you felt during that time. But let's go back up a little bit. So on September 11, 2001, there were 19 hijackers, 19 people a part of Al Qaeda, which, by the way, they had educational training. They had some education going on not only how to fly a plane, but also a little bit detailed about how, for instance, how hot jet fuel burns.
Yeah.
So they had details. They had very big. This was in planning for years. Mm-hmm. Years. I mean, they tried to attack in the 1990s. They tried to bomb the Twin Towers by going to the concrete pillars in the parking garage. They tried to destroy its structure. Luckily, it failed, but we didn't prepare for an air attack, and we failed in the intelligence agencies in bringing forth incredible intelligence to the front. It stalled,
and essentially. Some of the hijackers, if I'm not mistaken, got their education here.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Now, I don't think we can discriminate against people who look like them, nor should we have started acting like that after 9/11 happened. It's not everybody who's a part of the Muslim faith.
Just because you're a Muslim, black, white, whatever.
There's extremists on every spectrum.
Everybody. People who do bad things come in different shapes and colors. And different religions and sexes and everything.
Exactly. So. Yeah. So anyway, on that day, the first plane hit the North Tower at 8:46 a.m. The second plane hit at 9:03 a.m. There were, I think, on the first one, about 56, maybe 70-something passengers on the first one. I think 56 passengers 63. On the second plane.
Yeah.
And those are just passengers, not even crewmen. So it's anywhere between 5 and 7 on those planes. And then, of course, you had a third plane hit the Pentagon. I don't remember the time at which that happened, but there was one that flew into the Pentagon, killing, I think, a couple 100 or so, a little over 100 there. And then, of course, we had. This is one that I am extremely proud of. It's a damn shame that it happened, but I am proud of how Americans responded in this. They knew that they were going to die.
United 93?
I am not sure which one it was, but there was a plane that was hijacked, and it was either headed for the for the Capitol, U.S. Capitol in Washington D.C., or is headed for the White House, and a lot of brave passengers of that plane fought back against the terrorists, and they were actually able to save more lives by sacrificing theirs and bringing the plane down into a field in Pennsylvania. So I wish that we had that type of patriotism. We had that heroism here in America today, and unfortunately, you don't see much of it anymore.
No.
And you see more people ashamed to be American and to call themselves patriots than those who are actually proud to call themselves patriots. I am, for one, proud to be an American. I am proud to be a patriot, and I will die being one.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
Indeed.
Yeah, especially for something that I believe in.
Yeah.
And I will sacrifice my life to save others, because I know at the end of the day, I know where I'm going. Right? Well, okay. I guess I don't truly know. But I believe, because I've accepted Christ as my Savior, Jesus as my Savior. So me trying to live my life in accordance to how He wants me to, I can be calm in the face of death. And I think a lot of those people were like that. And I think a lot of them were like, you know what? If I'm going to die, I'm going to save people in the process.
Yeah.
And that's what we need. We need more people like that. And unfortunately, we don't in this day and age. And
the fact against that depression.
It's like the fact that the media is not covering it on the front page is a disgrace. Like, how can you call yourselves an American news company?
That should be like on days like this. That should be your first line. Period.
Yeah, period. Remembrance of 9/11. And then also on that day, what I actually didn't know was that the World Trade Building number 7, which housed New York City's command center, was, because of the debris from the Twin Towers when they fell, caught on fire, and it was left unchecked for 7 hours. Mm-hmm. And luckily, we don't know who, but someone actually ordered the evacuation of that building and saved hundreds of lives before that building finally collapsed as well. So, I mean, luckily we were able to save some lives from there, but the fact that we had, 3 buildings at least collapse that day because of the attacks?
I think it was, the towers, number 7, and then the surrounding ones burnt down, or also...
Were they burnt down? I know they were definitely a part of the debris. They got affected by the debris.
The towers fell on them, so they probably collapsed.
Because all the other ones were smaller than the 7th, Building 7.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just all a disgrace. And then, of course, as a few days later, George W. Bush, he declared war on terror and said to other countries around the world, if you're not with us, then you stand with the terrorists, which is pretty strong. And for America to say that, you kind of have to follow step, right?
Yeah.
And then, of course, we went into war. We went to war in Iraq. That one began on March 1920. I'm a dumbass. I wrote March 19, 2023. What year was that? It was 2003, maybe? Sorry, guys. I'm not a historian, so... 2003.
Yeah.
So I wrote 2023, but it's 2003, and it ended around 2010. And then, of course, Obama announced the withdrawal of troops from Afghan in 2011 and said the war officially ended in 2014. So there's a lot of history to go there, and if you are interested and curious about what pursued due to the terrorist attack on 9/11, please go do the research. And because I know, for one, it's extremely interesting to see how it all unfolded in terms of here and abroad, how it changed the intelligence communities, how it changed how we use the airports, flying, and all the restrictions that came about. The U.S. Patriot Act, which is a huge violation of our rights, I would say, in terms of surveillance. I'm sure it comes in handy for a lot of ways, but at the same time, I don't think it should have been something that passed.
Yeah. Well, they probably use it to their advantage, the corrupt ones.
Of course. And so, either way, I encourage y'all to go do the research and to just keep these families in your hearts and your prayers as you remember the fallen, as you remember how they were needlessly taken from us in a horrific attack on our country. And just also remember, too, this was committed by 19 people. 19 people killed almost 3,000 by hijacking planes and just killing. Just killing because they wanted to, because they hated America. Now think about the tens of thousands of people. Hell, think of the millions of people coming across unchecked our borders today and over the past several years under the Democrats and Joe Biden.
That might have the same thoughts.
And not to mention, I think we've captured over 100 people on the FBI's on the FBI's watch list, and on terrorist watch list.
Wow.
I mean, over 100, and this was committed by 19. Keep that in mind as we go into any type of election, and as you decide who it is you want in office to represent you in America,
and protect our land,
and who you want to protect our land. The people who are allowing anybody and everybody to come into this country unchecked and unvetted, or the people who want to protect our border, protect our lands, and protect you. Just remember. All right. So
straight up.
Let's go ahead and change things a little bit. Let's go into another, unfortunately, kind of somber incident, if you will. But at the same time, kind of proud that there are sheriffs who refuse to do anything about it, and that is the New Mexico governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, however you pronounce her name. She declared a public health emergency for gun violence and moved to suspend the open carry, I think the concealed and open carry for citizens in terms of being able to carry their guns. So they basically suspending
Except
the
for,
U.S. Constitution, not the New Mexico Constitution, which
except for law enforcement and
yeah,
certified
so
security
for 30
officers.
days to address the gun violence epidemic or gun violence public health emergency. Which by the
It's
way,
like
health, really? Maybe safety, yes, but health, like COVID, really? Really? Are you serious? Really? Health? What? If that makes sense to you, you're stupid. There's no other way. If that makes sense to you, if gun violence is akin to public health emergency like COVID-19 or something worse,
said that the gun violence, it's a health problem, it's a health crisis, and that's what we're gonna do.
if you think gun violence is a public health emergency, you might be a moron.
Yeah, and if you think a criminal, it's gonna say, "Oh, I guess I gotta stop using my gun because this lady says so." It's gonna do that.
And that's what one of the sheriffs said too. It's like
his brother was involved in
his brother and I think his nephew or someone were in the car and they got shot up. And he's like, the last thing I'm gonna do is tell my brother you have to get rid of all your guns and you can't protect yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's also another way to look at it too. Is okay, everybody. I'm going to suspend the U.S. Constitution beyond my authority as the governor of your state, and cannot suspend anything that has to do with the Bill of Rights of the Constitution. But I'm going to do it anyways. And you cannot open or conceal carry any weapons for 30 days while we address this issue. And then, what's the response from the criminals going to be? Oh my gosh! You mean I can no longer illegally conceal my illegally obtained gun and commit crimes? Wow, what a shame. Dang.
Let me wait 30 days.
Let me wait 30 days and I'll get back to
Idiot,
it.
bro.
No. All that does is increase criminals' ability to inflict damage among people in the community. That's all it does, because
you're basically penalizing the law-abiding citizens.
Exactly. Law-abiding citizens have their
and
guns
exposing
for protection.
them to
Criminals have guns to commit crimes. Law-abiding citizens have guns to protect themselves from the criminals trying to commit crimes. It's as simple as that. But, of course, the Democrats in charge, and I think she's a Democrat, too.
She is.
Yeah. The Democrats in charge, they don't like the First Amendment. They especially don't like the Second Amendment, because that protects you from the tyrants in charge trying to take power and trying to take control over your lives. So they are afraid of the First and Second Amendments because it's a threat to them getting unchecked, unlimited power over us.
Yeah. The First Amendment gives you freedom. Mm-hmm. The Second Amendment gives you a way to protect that freedom. Mm-hmm. And that's what they want to do. They want to take away your freedom and a way to protect it.
Because it's all about power.
Tell me that's not tyrannical.
Yeah, I can't, because it is.
It is.
It is. And I'm just glad that there's law enforcement all across the state that says, that refuse to do it. And then, of course, there was I think is a member of the House who went on to X, and he said something in regards to criticizing the governor's decision, a Democrat, by the way, in California, the governor's decision to suspend the Constitution, the Second Amendment, and saying that she does not have the authority, you cannot suspend the Constitution.
Yeah, it's unconstitutional.
And what did she say about her views, her beliefs, personal beliefs about the U.S. Constitution?
She said the way she views it,
yeah, what
the
she
Constitution
personally believes,
and her oath are not absolute.
Yeah.
She can just,
which, by the way,
wash it aside whenever she feels like it.
Here's what I want everybody to kind of think about for a second. So she said something in the fact that basically she said she believes that the U.S. Constitution or no amendment in the U.S. Constitution is absolute.
Yep. Yes.
Yes, it is.
The document you swore to protect.
But here's the thing.
That's not absolute.
She said the U.S. Constitution,
dumbass,
in my belief, is not absolute. Okay, if any politician, matter of fact, if any person says that they believe the U.S. Constitution is not absolute, ignore them or at the very least, ignore them. But what you should do as a responsible American citizen, or even if someone who just loves the country, even if you're just here like on a visa or visiting, is you should, not visiting, but if you reside in these states, what you need to do is you need to speak out and say, who gives a crap about what you believe? The fact is the U.S. Constitution is absolute and you follow it to the T.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you believe that what it is isn't what it's meant to be, what it's not meant to be. You, regardless of what your belief is, you have a responsibility as the governor, as the elected governor of that state or elected official of any position or anybody who swears an oath to U.S. Constitution to follow it, regardless if you believe in the Second Amendment, regardless if you believe in the First Amendment, or the 13th Amendment, or the 14th Amendment.
The Constitution doesn't care how you feel. Like, that was made for a reason, and our country has grown to be the most powerful country in the world because of that.
And the most free.
And the most free.
The reason why everybody has the lives that they have today and the fact that they can change their lives based on their decision is because of the U.S. Constitution and the fact that we have had great men and women of this country of all colors, creeds, and religions fight for those ideals, fight for those amendments, fight for those rights, those values, for each and every person who resides here.
You're basically telling every soldier that's been to war to protect our country that they did it for no reason.
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and tell the military that
the Constitution don't matter?
That the Constitution doesn't matter, and you should just do what we say because that's what we say. Because we said to do it. Because you need to follow blindly. I mean,
she needs to be impeached, which some Democrats are calling for it.
Democrats calling for a Democrat.
They're agreeing with it. They're saying her decision is not right.
So then she's going to be impeached.
She's probably going to be impeached. She's going to get smoked. Like, she's going to get owned in court.
Hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Because it's not going to fly.
No, and right now the Supreme Court can jump in. And there was already, within like 24 hours, there's already an organization that filed a lawsuit.
Oh, yeah. And then that sheriff that was speaking, the video we were watching, I'm surprised she's not in jail. Like,
I don't know who's in charge of protecting the governor of the state.
Isn't that treason?
But, I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think she truly believes she can suspend the Constitution. But the thing is, she's not attacking the state Constitution. She's going directly against the federal Constitution.
Yeah, but she swore an oath to protect that, and if you're not, that's treason.
So, probably, you could probably make an argument for it. I mean, whether or not it would go through, I don't know. You can make a better argument for treason for someone like Joe Biden and his taking money from foreign countries and governments. I mean, Joe Biden, you can easily make a case for treason. Her, because she thinks that she can declare a public health emergency and suspend the U.S. Constitution, not just the New Mexico Constitution, the U.S. Constitution, for her citizens only. Yeah. I don't know if that's treason or just complete incompetent ignorance.
Yes.
I don't know.
We'll just leave her at dumb.
She's a moron for sure, who loves power and out of touch with. She's so out of touch with her constituents. So out of touch. I
just don't see how that thought in her head was like, oh, this is a good idea.
I don't know.
New Mexico, you elected her.
And New Mexico, I think for the most part, was a pretty purple state. Well, I think they're a pretty purple state. So I think now, because of that, she just lost New Mexico for Democrats.
I think so.
And because if Democrats are coming out against her, they know that the Second Amendment is extremely popular in a Constitution carry state. Mm-hmm. Which means they know that they have to be independent more than Democrat right there.
And don't, one thing that, when you said public health emergency, COVID was that.
Yep.
And they did mandates on masks and vaccines and all that. So that was, like you said, it was a test. And now, I think the Democrats are lashing at her not because they don't like that idea, because they've done it, and we know they're for it. But it's because of the way she did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it is.
Look, I want everybody to realize this. Okay, I'm sorry. I was looking it up real quick. New Mexico even actually went for Joe Biden. Now, if you look at... Now, that's only because these highly populated cities went mostly for Joe Biden. But if you look at the majority of the counties in the state, the majority of them are red. So that's where the unfortunate difference is between densely populated urban areas and then rural and suburban areas. But anyways, so if you guys pay attention to what they did in 2020 for COVID-19, they declared it obviously a public health emergency. They declared it to be an epidemic. Excuse me. Sorry, I didn't want you guys to see that or hear that, but it happened. Anyways, so
You're human.
well, oh, which, by the way, if you're listening to us on audio, thank you very much for listening to us. We also encourage you to go see the video. There's nothing special about it except for you get to look at our pretty faces. So what can I say? And if you're on video...
Speak for yourself.
If you're on video, thank you for joining us. And just please be sure to click that like button, subscribe, and share, and that notification bell so you don't miss another episode. Now, to continue, if you remember about 2020, they used COVID-19 as a test run for how far they can get with going around the U.S. Constitution to enforce their tyrannical power grab and label it a public health emergency. Right? Now, was it a health issue? Obviously it was, especially for the elderly and especially for those who were particularly obese or had other comorbidities. But even then, if you take away the elderly in like 65 and up, if you take away the death statistics from there, the death rate was like 0.1%. I mean, and most of that was because people were obese, right?
Yeah.
So
And
they
people already had health complications. And a lot of these death by COVID-19, that wasn't necessarily the real...
If you shot yourself in the head, but you had COVID-19, they labeled it a COVID-19 death.
I wasn't able to find it, but remember when I told you the release papers, the medical release papers, I don't know the name of the person or anything like that. I don't even know if the papers were real. But the person couldn't put weight on one leg. Diagnoses, COVID-19.
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't surprise me if that's real. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not trying to underplay the deaths from COVID-19
not at all.
in
I'm just saying, like,
and beyond. But the response from the government to take away our constitutional rights by cramming down lockdowns, mask mandates, COVID vaccines, which, by the way, they're not even regular vaccines like the flu, trying to mandate that for us, which the Supreme Court ruled unconstitutional, yet they're trying to continue with that crap again.
People
and put
lost
in
their
mandates.
jobs.
People lost their jobs
Because they didn't want to get vaccinated.
There were 9 people, and we're kind of going off on a tangent a little bit here, but we'll bring it back to, we'll circle it back, as Jen Psaki liked to say, circle back. There were I think about 9 people who sued the public education system of New York because there were 9 teachers that refused to take the COVID-19 vaccine, so the mRNA shot. They won that lawsuit, and they got fired a couple years ago because they wouldn't take the shot. Well, the judge ordered the public education system that they work for, I think either the school or the district, to pay them back pay for all the months that they should have been employed and offer them their jobs back. Which, if I were the teacher, I'd be like, I'll take the money, but I don't want my job back.
Yeah, I'll find a different job.
Yeah, I'll find a different job if I haven't already, right?
Yeah.
So it's things like that was happening all across the country and mostly by Democrats. And of course, Joe Biden tried to use it as a public health emergency, which, he thinks gave him the right to circumnavigate the U.S. Constitution to enforce his tyrannical agenda. And then, of course, you have him saying, not officially, he said in an interview that he has already said that we are in a climate emergency, climate change emergency, which is false beyond false. We are not in a climate emergency, and they're just trying to force down their agenda to give them more power and money and control by saying it's an emergency and that you're all going to die.
Yeah.
Because they used fear to gain power in 2020 using COVID, which allowed them to do the mail-in ballot process, which allowed them to win the election.
And that's what I was going to say. They're doing this to get ready for 2024,
Exactly.
just so they can have mail-in ballots that can be discounted, not counted, fraudulent ones, whatever.
Yeah, and they already.
That's the only way they can
win.
win. That's why they do
even
it.
said that I don't remember what year they did it, but the CDC a few years ago said that we are suffering from a gun violence epidemic, and it's so not the case. And by the way, if you want gun violence to be solved, you give citizens the ability and right to purchase and own guns legally, of course, and then you ramp up the policing in your state, in your cities, to crack down on violent crimes. And you even crack down on some of the most petty crimes, because it's called broken window crime or something of that nature. Yeah. And it was very popular when Rudy Giuliani took office as the mayor in the early 2000s, right? So when he took office, they would go after everybody for even the smallest crimes, and they were able to prevent the bigger crimes because they got the criminals off the street. That's what you need to do. You need to take responsibility for the fact that you and your policies are responsible for the increase in crime, because you are harder on police than you are on the criminals.
Quit slapping the criminals' hands.
Yeah.
And actually give them what the law says they need to get.
Honestly, if you refuse to prosecute, like several George Soros DAs, including in Florida, have refused to do, you're refusing to do your job, you're refusing to uphold the Constitution and the law, therefore you should be fired and unable to hold public office ever again. Yep. When you should, honestly, if you're a district attorney and you refuse to do any of that, you should lose all credentials. You shouldn't be able to practice law. You shouldn't be able to do any of that. I think you've lost your ability to be in that field. Private, public, doesn't matter. You've lost your ability to do that because you refuse to do what you were trained to do and what the law says to do. And by the way, each and every one of those people are backed by George Soros.
Oh, yeah. All of them. He's got a lot of say in what's going on. Mm-hmm. And where does the Central of Disease Control come up with guns being a disease?
A disease
center, yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
Aren't they the scientists? A gun is not a disease, bro.
Yeah, you guys are supposed to be in charge of health issues that have to do with the human body in terms of internal conflict in regards to infections, diseases.
How about instead of taking guns away, just put the criminals away and people that need help mentally help them?
Exactly. What I think people need to do is not defund the police, which is almost an entirely leftist and Democrat thing. But you need to increase the funding.
A city without cops? Are they serious?
It's Detroit. That's Detroit. It's Chicago. It's downtown New York. It's Los Angeles, San Francisco. That's what those are. Minneapolis in 2020. Yeah. Seattle in 2020, when people who were protesting because of Black Lives Matter, they took over 7 city blocks and determined it an autonomous zone. And the chief of police, I believe it was, ordered the evacuation of a police precinct, which was then taken over by citizens who were basically... Honestly, I consider, if you are a part of that group that took control of 7 blocks of a U.S. city, you're a terrorist. You're a domestic terrorist, and you deserve to be treated like such. Not people who protested abortion clinics or people who were at January 6th and didn't even commit any acts of violence. Anyways, that's a tangent. That's an episode for another day. That's a whole nother thing. But yes, right now they're trying to use the public health emergency that they use for COVID-19 as way to crack down on your rights, to basically just any rights, especially your freedoms and your liberties for gun carrying.
The pursuit of happiness.
They're going to use it for climate change. They're using it for guns right now. They used it for lockdowns, so that way it's easier for them to do mail-in ballots and take control of the federal, the federal and state elections. So just be aware of that, because while you think that happened in New Mexico, that won't happen to me here in Florida. Obviously, you're correct. Here in Texas, you are correct. But places like Colorado, places like Washington,
it could happen. It could happen anywhere, really.
The Carolinas.
Keep your eyes open. Do your research. And when you see people like that are trying to, cancel our Constitution, get them out of office.
Yeah, either run to a different state or do everything in your power to get them out of office and to never vote people like that in again.
That's another reason why we have is the Second Amendment, is to be able to
protect ourselves, from
tyrannical government.
Exactly. And I would like for us to not have to resort to violence.
Yeah, of course.
But if you got to protect yourself, you got to protect yourself.
We have voting power, and people can just... I mean, they're doing it in front of your face. Mm-hmm. Like, just get them out of there.
Yeah, and people are probably going to take that out of context when I say if you got to protect yourself. But it is what it is. Sounded great, didn't it? Okay. Sorry, that's a habit. I just crushed my water bottle so it fits better in the trash can. Let's see if I can make it. Way off. I'll get that later. Anyways, so
it's like a
let's go ahead.
10% success rate.
That is so not true.
Yes, it is.
It is not
true. I guarantee it.
Maybe here when I'm trying to go for a small trash can underneath the table, yes, it is. But in general, it's not 10%, okay? It's more like we'll go 50-50. I'll be generous with myself. Be 50-50.
That is generous.
Shut it. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on from there. We'll end this episode on a topic about, for instance, a sport that I'm good at, which is football.
I don't
know. Basketball.
I can't attest to that.
Yeah, it's true, you can't. But You didn't know me when I played football. And you haven't seen me play. But I'm good at it. Okay? I am. Believe me on that.
Play it.
I can't.
All right.
Maybe for a Thanksgiving pickup game. That would be fun. Hey, comment below if you have a tradition with your friends or family if you do a pickup football game during Thanksgiving. I'd like to know how many people do that. But all right, so we're gonna go ahead and do a little bit of a week 2 recap, which I think is fun. And like we said earlier, I think one of the biggest stories of this week is Texas, number 11 Texas, going into Tuscaloosa, Alabama to knock off number 3 Alabama. And
hard place to win at.
Yeah, hard place to win at. And they won, most people will say convincingly. When I watched the highlights, because I was working during the game, honestly, I saw a lot of mistakes from both teams. And Alabama stayed in it for quite a while. Yeah. And it wasn't until they threw a pick that was returned into the red zone, Alabama throwing the pick, that is, into the red zone, that allowed Texas to score within 15 seconds.
Yeah.
Twice within 15 seconds. I think if it wasn't for that interception, we are having a different story here.
Yeah.
And Alabama turned it over twice. And they had 9 penalties for 90 yards or something of that nature? Yeah. No, 10 penalties for 90 yards. That's what it was. 10 penalties for 90 yards compared to Texas 4 for 40.
So Alabama, they had their turnovers. Texas had their mistakes too. A lot of drop balls that should have been caught.
Mm-hmm. Including one that was in the end zone.
Yeah. So
should have been a better pass.
I think both teams struggled. Obviously, you're playing a great team, right?
True.
You're not playing. It's the game of the week, the game of the year, whatever you want to call it.
Even though I found out more people tuned in to watch the Colorado game against Nebraska than they did for the Texas-Alabama game.
Mr. Deion Sanders is creating a lot of spotlight for the team.
Yeah, and to be honest, I can't say much about Colorado because I don't know much about the program, and I don't know much about the hype about Deion Sanders or Coach Prime. I don't know why he's called Coach Prime going to Colorado.
We would have to look into it, but there's a lot of people were talking he's not going to be a good coach, blah, 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 blah. But
was it because he was a good player, and of course players never make good coaches?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Like Texas, Alabama, though, if both teams didn't make those mistakes, I think Texas still comes out on top.
You do?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And people are saying, is Texas back, or is Texas, you don't use that term.
Don't count them.
Is Texas an elite team this year? I mean, there's so many of that going on right now, and I'm just like...
I wouldn't go as far as to say they're elite, but they're going to be competitive for sure.
Competitive, yes. Elite, as in they can go to the playoff and win it, I don't know. I wasn't able to see that. Now, I think their defensive line manhandled Alabama's offensive line. But we also got to understand that Alabama this season, is not the same Alabama from 5-6 years ago.
No, it's not.
It really isn't. And so to try and compare the two, you have a lot of different talents
I
and
think,
skills on there.
what's
I mean, you still got the OG of college football, Nick Saban,
Oh yeah,
guiding them.
he's the best coach. I think what happening is you get players for 4 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Alabama was up with good players, Texas was recruiting and coming up.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also got the fact that you got Coach Sarkisian, which is starting to finally get a lot of talent into the school. He's tightening a bunch of things up, especially with things like discipline. So, I think Texas is officially a team to be reckoned with? Absolutely. Do I think my team Oklahoma could beat Texas? I have no earthly clue. I mean,
That's gonna be a good
I have
game.
family members that. So get this. I told my mom, I was like, "Hey, you enjoying the game?" And she was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'm loving it." Right. And then she said later in the night, she sent me a text while working, and she's like, Texas is gonna whoop OU's ass this year." And I can't say no because I'm disappointed with how Oklahoma's been performing the past few years. Now, granted, we just had Brent Venables take over as head coach, and we're still dealing with the little hurt in our heart, if you will, about how Coach Lincoln Riley left us, about how he did it, and the fact that we thought he was the future of the program, but no, he decided to go chase dollar bills at USC. And that showed where his allegiance lied. It lies with the money and not with the program. And I thought his allegiance was with the program. So, yeah, there was a lot of pissed off feelings in regards to how he left, and we were hurt last year as we were also trying to deal with a new coach, and he was trying to get back into the groove of trying to figure out what it's like to be a head coach. But do I think we're much, much better this year? Absolutely. Am I content with how we won against SMU? Yes. Am I satisfied with how we won against SMU? Absolutely not. Do I think that Oklahoma can win against Texas? If we're running on all cylinders and Texas is not, probably. But with Texas versus Oklahoma, you could have one of them being the best team of the year and one of them being the worst team of the year in the conference, and the worst team wins. It is literally a moment-by-moment figuring out who's going to win. A couple of years ago, Texas was ahead like 28-7, 28-14. I think it was 28-7 before halftime. I think like 28 points in the first quarter against Oklahoma. Oklahoma came back and won it, 55-40 something.
Damn. They shut down the defense.
They finished right. And it was it was the same game where Spencer Rattler was benched and they put Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams was the Heisman Trophy winner over at USC last year. So they put him in there and just absolutely destroyed Texas on offense, and Texas struggled on defense and offense, really, especially on offense. They just weren't able to capitalize, and they weren't able to do things going forward. So again, I think you have to take Texas. Do I think Texas has a lot of talent? Do I think Texas is good this year? Absolutely. Do I think that you can say that they're an elite team and that they can go to the playoff? I think if they continue to play and improve like they did against Alabama and improve upon that, I think they could be absolutely. I think this could be very similar to the LSU when Joe Burrow was there and they won the national championship. Do I think they'll be that good on offense? No. Do I think they could be much better than LSU on defense? Yes, I think they can. And I like, for instance, if Texas, I'm looking at it right now. Texas scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. If they didn't do that, it's a much different ballgame.
Yeah.
And Oklahoma and Alabama was still in it for a while, right? But of course, they made a lot of mistakes. Yeah. Those turnovers.
Texas did too. Dropping the end zone pass. I think there was couple of passes that would have got them in good field position instead of punting. Mm-hmm. Those passes were dropped. But yeah, I think they're gonna get there.
I think they'll get there sooner or later, and especially with going into the SEC. I think they're gonna get there in terms of talent and ability to do so. This year, I don't know about that. Keep in mind too, guys. We're not experts, an analyst or a statistician when it comes to football, so I could be way off, and I'm not going to make any official predictions. But here's my unofficial prediction: Texas is going to drop the ball. on probably a couple occasions. They're going to have some really bad games because the thing about Texas is they're not consistent. Texas has not been consistent game after game after game or year after year for a long time now. And I just don't know if they can keep it up all year. I think they may also... And also, Texas has had times where they're getting really good, and they're getting there, and then they let their pride be their hubris. And they get taken down, right? I mean, just what was it? A couple years ago, they lost to Kansas? Kansas! Like, are you serious? Maybe that was even last year. I don't know. But Kansas?
No, if they lose to Wyoming their next game, then they're done.
But you also understand too. They didn't have that great of a performance against Rice. Based on how they played against Alabama, they should have destroyed Rice. There are at times where they looked clunky.
Maybe they improved. They saw what they did against Rice. They improved upon that. Now they beat Alabama.
Obviously, now
if they improve upon what they did and they keep that up, like you said, consistency is going to be key for them. But if they're not consistent, then forget about it. It's going to be the top dogs again. Georgia.
Get about it.
LSU, Florida State.
Although I will say this, I think we need to be keeping an eye out for Florida State this year because Florida State is looking like a team. And I remember they played against Oklahoma last year in the Cheez-It Bowl, and Florida State won by 3 points, but they looked like a good team. Well, they have last year.
Who did they play week 1?
They're doing pretty good right now. They're number 4 in the country. They're number 3 in the country. Texas is number 4 in the country.
So they've only played LSU.
Well, LSU is ranked number 5, and they won 45-24. That's a pretty convincing team against an LSU team that's pretty good. And then of course Southern Miss, which is a nothing burger of a team, 66-13.
And then they get Boston College after that.
Yeah, so they got a pretty good. You also can understand Florida State's got a pretty good schedule this year. Their test is going to be against maybe Clemson, but for sure against Duke and Miami. So they have Miami on the 11th of November, and Miami right now is doing pretty good. They just had an upset win against. Air quotes upset
A&M
win against Texas A&M, but they won by 15 points against A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I think Miami is a pretty good team to keep your eyes on. I think going forward they'll be a pretty good team, and I think they're officially ranked this week. I think they're ranked at number 20. Did I say 22? Right?
I think 21 or 22.
Yeah. So. They're going to be pretty good if they can stay healthy and if they can stay consistent and play like that all year long. And Colorado, like I said, I don't know much about Deion Sanders. I don't know why they call him Coach Prime. I don't know the history behind the Colorado University. I know that historically, Colorado hasn't been that good. They've been, I guess, average, maybe a little bit below average at times, but they were really surprised about how they won against TCU, who TCU went to the playoff. TCU played at the national championship last year and got destroyed by Georgia, which just goes to show they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Yeah. I just don't think. I think they got lucky against, what was it, Michigan that they played, I think, in the playoff game? Or maybe...
Michigan was in there. I don't remember who they played.
So it was Georgia, Michigan, TCU, and... someone else. I forgot who it was.
Was it Bama?
No. I don't think... No, it wasn't Bama.
Ohio.
Was it Ohio State? I don't remember.
Yeah.
Guys,
we're not football
I forget
experts.
about it. I forget about it 3 months after it happened.
Like football, but we're not
obsessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing, fantasy football for the NFL.
Ohio State.
But yeah, so I mean, keep your eyes on Colorado. Looks like they're moving up in the rankings, and hopefully they can keep that up because I'd like to see some other teams in the top other than what we see every year.
Yeah.
And
the
I
big
think
4.
Florida State is one to keep an eye out. Utah, which is supposed to be really good this year, they went from 12 to 10, I think. Let me double check that. But they barely won against. Okay, no, so I think they're still at number 12. Yeah, they're still at number 12. But they barely won by 7 points, and I remember watching it. 7 points against Baylor. Baylor, which is not that good this year, and I think they lost to Texas State. Baylor lost to Texas State. Let me verify that. Yeah, Texas State Bobcats. 42-31. Texas State Bobcats, if you're not familiar with them, there's your answer as to how bad that is.
You don't know who they are.
You don't know who they are because they're not a Division I team.
Yeah.
They're not supposed to win. No, you're not supposed to lose to the Texas State Bobcats. Like, how did you let that happen? I mean, come on. So, yeah, there's a lot that happened this week. Obviously, it's really early in the season, and college football is so much more unpredictable than the NFL. And so, it's just, wow. College football could change in an instant.
It's action-packed, that's for sure.
Yeah. So, that's going to be interesting. And, of course, moving on to the NFL. Bro, NFL, I'm not a Dallas Cowboy fan. I like certain players on the team. But winning against the Giants 40-0? 40-0 in the NFL.
It's a fluke.
That is hard to do. And it was raining. It was wet, dude. So that's the thing, though. Texas, the Cowboys, they play and they play inside. They play indoors.
No.
The Giants, they're more apt. They're more conditioned in the wet and the rain.
Yeah, and
you'd
the
think
snow
they would
and
be.
all
Yeah,
that.
you'd think they'd be able to perform better than a team like the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. And I might be, some might be called a traitor or whatever. But first NFL game I ever watched, Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm a fan of Jacksonville, not a fan of the Cowboys. I'll follow them, but I'm not a diehard fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the Jaguars a lot, and shout out to them. Won the first game. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a big NFL fan. I like to watch players. I am a Saints fan, though. I will tell you that. I am a Saints fan because that's the first team I started watching when I started watching the NFL. It was the national championship Super Bowl against the Indianapolis Colts. Drew Brees versus Peyton Manning. The onside kick that they recovered. It was a good game.
Yeah.
And I liked it, and that's what made me become a Saints fan.
That was right after Katrina, right?
Yep. It was after Katrina. They're playing in the new. I think it was they just got done with the Mercedes Superdome. And so they were playing there for the first season.
Yeah.
So it was a good year. Obviously, had a lot of motivation, and
they had the whole city behind them.
Oh, they always do. What are you talking about? I don't know if you have any more diehard fans than probably the Raiders and Saints. I think Raiders. You get crazy, like violent crazy.
Yeah.
And I think the Saints you just have crazy passionate weirdos.
Yeah.
Like how they act. They're not necessarily violent, but I mean, of course, in New Orleans, Louisiana, you're gonna have your violence downtown.
No,
right? So there's everywhere.
Every city has violence downtown.
But I think you're more akin to seeing the crazy uniforms and the very passionate.
Like the crazy
reactions.
outfits and stuff from the fans.
Yeah, I think
Raiders
think so.
do crazy stuff.
They're just cuckoo. I mean, if I see someone wearing a Raiders jersey, I can tell you right now, I'm going to stay away from that. I don't want to get beat up. I'll tell you that. I'm a little bit of a wuss. Well, if I have to fight, I'll fight, but I prefer not to. Anyways, so that was week 2 recap. Technically, week 1 for the NFL. It's a little bit off, but I mean, the NFL, we also have we had a few more seasons or a few more weeks because of preseason. So, but I love college football. You love both. I don't follow NFL as much as I should, but now that I got cable and I'm gonna be watching a little bit more on Sundays, then I'll probably follow along a little bit more. But it's hard. Sometimes it's hard to just keep watching it when you're not invested. You know what I mean? It's a little tough, but
yeah, that's like for me, like a Cowboy game. I don't have to sit there and watch all the time.
Yeah.
But if it's a Jaguar game and I'm off, I'm probably gonna watch the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty good. I was surprised that the Lions beat the Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, albeit 1 point, but they won, and then Buccaneers 20-17 against the Vikings. Baker Mayfield taking over for Tom Brady did pretty well. I mean, not as well as you would hope, but he did really well. He did a good job protecting the ball, too. I don't think he had any turnovers whatsoever. So there's good on that if you're a Buccaneers fan. And so just hopefully he's able to maintain that all year long. And then, let's see, we had the 49ers against the Steelers. 49ers 30-7. That's pretty good. That's pretty good because Steelers historically are a pretty good team. And so, see the 49ers walk away with a win like that, it's impressive. So, and then of course, Eagles winning at the Patriots 25-20, which was good. And then, like we said earlier, Cowboys against the Giants 40-0. Again, for the Cowboys, I'm interested to see is that because their defense was that good. We all know that their offense can score. We all know that they have playmakers on the offense and that their O-line seems to be very much improved this year. And they gave Dak Prescott a lot of protection, and they're able to run the ball efficiently.
I think we'll be able to see more next week, next Sunday, when they play the Jets.
Yes and no. The Jets historically have been bad, though. I mean, we'll find out how good they are tonight at the time of this recording. They put the Bills.
Yeah, Jets Bills. That's gonna be good.
Yeah.
But Aaron Rodgers is there, and I think their offense is going to spark up a little bit.
Apparently, they had the number 4 scoring defense of the NFL last year.
Yeah, so we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see how the Cowboys handle that offense.
It'll definitely be interesting. Although, it says here, Dak Prescott only had 143 passing yards.
Yeah.
So that's surprising. He usually has 300 to 400. So I'm a little interested to see. I think they kept it on the ground more.
They probably ran a lot.
Yes, and probably a lot of defensive plays. But yeah, so the question is, was the Cowboys defense that good, or were the Giants offense that bad? We will find out going forward as the season unfolds and we get more games under the belt. Therefore,
more stats, more gameplay,
more gameplay, and the ability to predict a little bit better based on past
vision.
performance.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that is it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let us comment below. Let us know what you like about our episode. Let us know what what they covered in school with 9/11 and how you felt about it.
I'm just curious to see if they even said anything.
Yeah, especially if it's today, 9/11/2023, right? Mm-hmm. Did they say anything, and how did they say it, and how long did they cover it? And then, of course, let us know what you think of the audio and the video, and if you think we can improve a little bit. I think we did a little bit better. Also, our tables reoriented, repositioned. I like it better this way.
Reposition.
Yeah. It feels a little bit better. So
feels more open.
But again, we're just trying to improve every episode and trying to give you guys the best content we possibly can. But we cannot grow unless you guys share, comment, and subscribe. Also, if you like our episodes, if you like what we have to say, don't forget down below in the link in the description below. There's a link to where you can go purchase some America's Dummies merch, and so that'll help us out greatly. And I do kind of like this shirt. Yeah. We have different options. This is just pure 100% cotton shirt, but we have different options like a tri-blend and doormat. We have tumbler, a few other options. But just if you like to go support us, we greatly appreciate it. And the merchandise store, and then of course soon we'll be able to have a Patreon that everybody can go support as well.
Yeah, we gotta set that up.
We'll keep you posted on that, but. Again, thanks again. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast and turn on that notification bell. But as for now, that is it for today. So, thanks again, and till next time.
Peace. Go Jags.